Hello, and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club, episode 88, Wednesday, March 8th, 2023.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and...
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Welcome back. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'm joined, as always, by the Magic Kingdom to my Epcot, my lovely co-host, Emily.
Hello, Courtney, and welcome, listeners. We are going to spice things up a little bit this month and venture into some uncharted territory.
That's right. While we usually consider our show family-friendly, this episode might have some more adult themes because we are discussing a 1980s Harlequin American romance novel. That's right. Runaway Heart by Clare Richmond is set at Walt Disney World in 1986. This book is now out of print, but I was able to score a used copy through Thrift Books, and Emily accessed a free copy online through the Internet Archive Library, which we will link in our show notes if you are interested in reading it as well. Before we get into that, though, Emily, could you share a little with our listeners about this uniquely unexpected book?
Yes, and for people who are interested in reading, to get this, the link again is in our show notes. You will have to make a free account, but you just need an email address and a password, and then you can borrow the book for 1 hour. But you can borrow it multiple times. Like, I renewed it 3 times. So it's super easy to borrow online, very easy to read. And it's literally scans of the pages, like from your paperback, Courtney. Like, it has the color and everything. So you almost feel like you're reading that supermarket paperback that you picked up in the checkout aisle. All right, so for our research, as always, I turned to some primary sources. I went and looked at the publisher's website, harlequin.com. So a little bit first about Harlequin and then our authors. So Harlequin Enterprises, ULC, was founded by Canadian publishing executive Richard Bonnycastle in 1949. For a short time, Harlequin published several genres, including mysteries, westerns, and cookbooks. But the founder's wife, Mary, encouraged Harlequin to add romance because she noticed, quote, these nice little books with happy endings, end quote, were popular. And by 1957, Harlequin was publishing romance novels exclusively. So a very short run on other books, and they very quickly became known for their romances. The genius of Harlequin books is that they were rarely marketed in bookshops. Instead, the publisher focused on where their target audience frequented most, which was supermarkets, drugstores, and department stores. So if you've ever been in a supermarket and wondered why is it there's just this random thing of books next to the magazines, it's because Harlequin started that. And now I still see books in supermarkets all the time, not just Harlequin novels, some other popular ones like that I've seen from Book of the Month Club and other retailers as well. But that's where it started. So here's some fast facts about Harlequin publishing from their website. First, over 1,200 authors from around the world are currently published by Harlequin. Harlequin publishes over 120 titles each month under the Harlequin, Silhouette, Mira Books, Luna Books, Steeple Hill Books, HQN Books, Gold Eagle, Worldwide Mystery, etc. They have a lot of subsidiaries. So in addition, they publish 5 Spanish language series in North America with 16 titles monthly. That is a lot of books to publish monthly. Harlequin sold 131 million books worldwide last year, just over 1.4 books per second. Nearly half of Harlequin's books are sold outside of North America through a combination of subsidiaries, joint ventures, etc. So they have quite an overseas market. Over 800 Harlequin titles hit the stands each month around the world, generating from publishing operations in 19 countries. Harlequin's books are sold in 107 international markets in 29 languages around the world. Approximately 1 in every 6 mass market paperbacks sold in North America is a Harlequin or Silhouette novel. More than 1/3 of American females have read a book published by Harlequin Enterprises at some point in their lives. And the last fast fact they had was Harlequin purchases more than 2 original works of fiction every day.
So many fast facts. I feel like I'm on the IMDb trivia page.
Right? But based on those facts, if you want to get into romance writing, I feel like reaching out with your manuscript to Harlequin might be your best bet. They buy 2 a day, publishing 120 a month. Your odds look pretty good.
Well, let's get into the one that we found. What can you share about Runaway Heart?
Yeah, so the book we're reading today, Runaway Heart by Clare Richmond, the book is actually co-written by 2 authors, Louise Tichenor and Carolyn Males. These 2 authors first met in a literary critique group in Maryland, where they, along with authors Ruth Glick and Eileen Buchholz, together wrote 2 novels published under Silhouette Books, Love is Elected in 1982 and Southern Persuasion in 1983, under the name Alyssa Howard. Afterwards, the 4 authors then split into 2 groups of 2, and Louise and Carolyn wrote together under the name Clare Richards and Clare Richmond, which is the book that we read is their Clare Richmond name. Here's what else I learned about the authors from their Goodreads, Wikipedia, and personal websites. I digress. I did have to turn to Wikipedia a little bit, had to go out there to the readers to find what I could, because there's not too much information out there. It seems like most of their books, beyond being published, especially since they publish under pseudonyms, there's not a ton out there. So Louise Tichenor is originally from Detroit, Michigan, but wound up in Maryland after her husband became a professor of philosophy at the University of Maryland, our alma mater. She has authored and co-authored over 40 novels spanning multiple genres. Most of her mysteries take place in Baltimore, Maryland, which we will talk about. When asked about why she writes so many different genres, she said, quote, "I'm a storyteller. I'm not a romance writer, mystery writer, or suspense writer per se. I tell all different kinds of stories. I certainly would not recommend writing in so many genres to other authors. It's not the way to build an audience or a career in today's market," end quote. But I think she's been pretty darn successful. She has over 40 novels published. Carolyn Males is a writer and photographer. She's credited with 8 novels and several nonfiction books. She's also a photographer and editor of Coastal Isle magazine. Her writing can also be found in various other places such as Reader's Digest, Travel, Holiday, Brides, Parade, Cosmopolitan, U.S. Air, Coastal Caroline, etc. She has so many publications, including our local, the Baltimore Sun. So she spends a lot of her writing mostly in periodicals. She also has experience with directing, editing, and scripting documentaries and talk shows for a small television production group on topics including art, travel, theater, and science. So for most writing, Louise Tichenor is going to be our career author of novels, whereas Carolyn Males has really dabbled in lots of types of writing. As for Runaway Heart itself, we have a little bit of information we can share, but to get us started, it was published by Harlequin American Romance, September 24th, 1986, and that's really where we pick up. So, going into our discussion, we do want to give our spoiler alert. We are going to talk about this book completely and through its plot, so if you want to read it before you listen, this is your place to stop. And now come back. And then we do want to reiterate our rated T for teen alert, because some of this is going to get a little bit spicy. So to kick us off, Courtney, you introduced me to this book, and you had quite a social media blow up about getting a copy of this book. So how did you find it? How did this come to you?
Yeah, I found this book originally through Twitter, or hashtag #DizTwitter, as we like to call it. I feel like every time somebody gets their hands on this book, it does blow up. And so it was, I don't even remember who it is, and I'm sorry, but about a year and a half ago, someone was like, oh my gosh, found this Harlequin romance novel that takes place at Disney. And if you go to our Instagram, you will be able to see pictures of the book. I took pictures in front of Cinderella Castle as well as Spaceship Earth, because both of those iconic attractions, as well as Space Mountain, are featured on the cover of the book with our 2 main characters in a loving embrace. It is just full 1980s Harlequin romance novel glory. Like, no shirtless Fabio, but definitely that certain art style that you expect from these paperbacks. So I was like, I'm sorry, what? is this? Okay, so I started looking for it. It is, as we shared, out of print, and I was not aware of the Internet Library Archive. So I've just been like scavenging the internet for this book for a year and a half. Not every day. I never had any alerts set up, but every so often I'd be like, maybe I'll check for that book again. And I happened to just check back in January. Somebody else had posted they found one, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll check. There was a certain price I was willing to pay. I was like, I'm not going to pay $75. I've seen it go for that high. But it popped up used on Thrift Books for $26. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And it arrived. It said good condition, but I feel like that was just to temper my expectations, because I would say it was very good to near excellent condition. So thank you to whoever sold that to me on Thrift Books. Tweeted, hey, I got this book. I wasn't necessarily expecting to do it on the show because I thought it would be a problem to get you the book. But once it blew up on Twitter, several people were like, hey, you can read it online. And I'm like, all right, here we go, Emily. Your turn.
It was so funny
to read it too.
When you sent me those tweets, like you kept tagging me, you're like, Emily, we can do it. And I was at school and I was just like, let me see if I can log on. So I'm actually at my planning period. Like everyone around me is like grading papers and I'm like, can I order this? Can I borrow this book? And it worked. Yeah, it actually, for me, reading experience wise, it doesn't download. So it's not like using Libby or Hoopla or whatever your ebook reader library app is, where it kind of like you can download it almost to your reading device, e-reader, and read it from there, and then it goes away. You have to stay in the browser because it's their own reading. So think of it as almost like reading a primary source, like a scanned document, like you would for, this is me being a history person, reading like history primary sources. So you have to stay in the reader, and it does only let you borrow for an hour, but I didn't find that to be a problem. It wasn't like there's a wait list and like you have to wait a whole day to get it for another hour. I literally just kept borrow again, and it brought me back to the same page that I was on. I don't even think the browser unloaded. It just, the next page was just blank when my borrowing was over. So super easy to do. Again, just set up an account. I just used my, your regular email and create a password. It was super easy. And I'm curious now, there's a lot of books on here, a lot of interesting things. So I wonder what else we could unlock maybe for the show by going through the Internet Archive.
Save ourselves some money there. Out of print books get expensive. I was willing to pay, but I had limits, and so I was glad that it wasn't like 3 times the price of what I paid was that expensive when the cover says that it cost $2.50 in 1986 dollars.
I'm curious now, like if I go, I have to look when I go to the grocery store next, like
what are they?
What kind of paperback
What's the going
this is?
Rate for?
Have you read a Harlequin before?
No, so this is actually, I'm glad you asked that. This was my first time. I was gonna say if we went down this route, romance is not my go-to genre, but I have dabbled a little more into it thanks to Book of the Month Club expanding my genres. You've gotten me into the author Emily Henry, which I guess I'm more into, like, I would call them rom-com books, like romantic comedy. They have some spicy scenes, but I had never read an official Harlequin title. I definitely spent a lot of time in Goodwill as a child, which is a weird tangent that I'm not going to go down, but my favorite section of Goodwill was the book section. So I definitely, remember seeing some covers, maybe in middle school being like, what's that? But had not picked one up myself. I would say my go-to genre outside of this podcast is like psychological thrillers and mysteries. How about you?
So I think this was my first Harlequin romance, but reading all of the different subsidiaries they have, like I'm kind of curious if maybe something under Silhouette or one of their other publisher subsidiaries, maybe I've read something, but I don't think I have. At least looking at the books on my bookshelf, most of it's like Scholastic or Bloomberg, I don't know, usual big name publishers, Penguin House, Random House, all of those. So I think this is my first. However, I know my sister has read a decent number of them. And I remember as a kid in my grandmother's house, next to her couch, she had kind of like built-in bookshelves in her walls, and they were just covered. Like the first 2 rows, like in like young kid height, were at least it was next to her section of the couch. Like, it was really funny. So, like, the VHSs were on one side of the built-in bookcases, and then her books were next to her section of the couch, and they were just filled. And I didn't know anything about Harlequin, but I was like, oh, those look like the ones I see in the grocery store. Like, that's all I associated with. So this is, for both of us, I think, a dive into Harlequin. I do read a little bit more romance than you do, but I'm with you where I prefer kind of the romantic comedy romance versus, like, this was... We'll talk about it. Like, I don't know if you can consider this, like, dramatic, but it's definitely more dramatic, not super funny, or, like, the main character. We'll talk about these characters because this was definitely written in the 80s. So I'm with you on that, with more like the rom-com type, like Emily Henry, Allie Hazelwood, Tessa Bailey are kind of the three big authors I'm reading currently. But yeah, for me, usually outside of this podcast, I lean more towards historical fiction or fantasy. Tend to be the ones that I reach for the most.
All right. Well, what were your overall impressions on this text specifically with all of that in mind?
Okay, here come the thoughts. A few thoughts. So first, when we see this on Goodreads, it only has like 12 reviews, which you and I will probably make review number 13 and 14. Which reviews tend to be kind of on the lower side. I think this only had like a 2.5 on Goodreads, but I chalk that up to not a lot of people contributing. So it kind of skews the data here. But for most people who pick this up, it's because of the cover with all the Walt Disney World stuff on it. We only spend 3 chapters in Walt Disney World out of 20 some chapters. So it is only maybe a third of the book you get to be in Walt Disney World. So kind of a little misleading, but like I knew that going in from reading reviews. That being said, knowing that going in, I did expect it to be worse than it was.
In what way? Like spicier or
not spicier, but
poorly
way
written?
people were just like, oh, not enough Walt Disney World, or like the romance. I don't know. I just expected it to not be as engaging as it was. Like, there was a decent plot. I liked the mystery of like this child runs away. I really liked how we do get to know our 2 main characters decently well, like backstory wise. We do get some of that. We do get to hear, even though it's third person, we do get to hear from both of their perspectives in a weird way.
It's the omnipresent narrator.
Yeah. Except we don't like flip flop like how current romances would give like a chapter per voice. It's like
you're in her head and here's him reacting to her and her reacting to him, like within 2 sentences.
Exactly. So I liked those elements. So I did feel like I knew these characters pretty well. So I was pretty pleased about that. I don't know, just my preconceptions of going in with Harlequin, I was like, they're meant to be fun and read quickly. And I did read this in about 3 hours. It was a very short read. So some of my qualms, I do understand that this is the point of the genre, is not to be like, the plot does move almost too quickly sometimes. But overall, I had a good time reading it. I enjoyed it. As a Disney fan, the small portion of Walt Disney World we were in, being history buffs that we are, I did recognize stuff, so that was fun. So overall, enjoyed. I do have some nitpicky things, but I think this was a great dive, and I love that Disney had nothing to do with this whatsoever.
Yeah, I liked it better than I expected, but I think part of that, which I am completely biased, is because the other 2/3 of the book took place in Baltimore.
Yes!
And I am a Baltimore native, so I'm like that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where he's like sitting on the couch, drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette, and like pointing at the TV. They're like, North Avenue, Pratt Street, the Lyric Opera House. I was like, yes, I know these things. So I feel the same delight that Disney fans would have reading the Disney chapters and seeing the little references to outdated attractions or even still standing attractions like Spaceship Earth. I got double the fun because I knew all of the Baltimore references. So that was quite a surprise and delight for me. So I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads. I was like, it's a 2.5 rounded to a 3 because Goodreads won't let you do half stars. But I had a lot of fun reading it. But I will say the spicy scenes were tamer than I expected. I don't know. In my head, I was just like, oh, Harlequin is raunchy. And it really wasn't. And I was like, oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, maybe because of our introduction now to adult reading that we do now, like what adult reading looks like in 2023 versus 1986. could look very
Yeah,
different. Or
that
I
would be
don't
interesting
know,
to study.
right? Or I don't know if maybe as a publisher, like what the lines are with publishing and putting this. I don't know. I'm very unsure.
I felt like it often described their desire of each other. It was like, and then they were together, and you're like, oh, okay. It just kind of ended abruptly. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I do think it was more descriptive than maybe we're giving it credit for. But I agree with you that maybe more the desire part was descriptive, like how she looked in her almost see-through nightgown, and how turned on she was in certain parts of her body and whatnot. Like those things were pretty darn descriptive.
Yes, but then I feel like, and they're like,
right, but
and then the two became one, and you're just like, oh, okay. Like it described it as that. Like, look, I'm not saying I need like
the actual
graphic
action
play by
of
play
sleeping together.
Yes,
is pretty downplayed, but the foreplay is there.
I didn't need a play by play, but I think I guess I had in my mind like that's what Harlequin's known for, and I was just like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah.
Is she satisfied?
With that being said, listeners, I would not give this to your 12-year-old.
No, absolutely not.
It's still an adult read.
Rated T for teen, but just, I guess that's in terms of impressions, I went into this being like, oh, it's going to get really spicy. And I was like, oh, I mean, a little spicy.
It definitely is spicy. So anyway, before we get more into the book itself and its plot and characters, we did reach out to the authors, and they were able to give us a little bit more background. So we didn't reach out as for like an interview, but we hope they could answer some of our questions. We reached out to both Carolyn and Louise, and Louise got back to us. So Courtney, do you want to read what she sent us?
Actually, it's kind of weird because I only reached out to Carolyn, but somehow Louise replied to me. No, I don't know how this happened. It was too late to try to put together an interview. They wrote this book 40 years ago, almost. So I did my own detective sleuthing, because we'll get into detectives in a bit. And I just was like, maybe I can find them. Like, who is Clare Richmond? Oh, it's two people. So I emailed Carolyn a list of questions, and then somehow got a response from Louise. I'm assuming Carolyn just forwarded it, and I just wasn't.
Yeah, it seems like with Carolyn's website, she has a lot more outlets to reach.
Yeah,
her.
that's how I found her. But I was glad to hear from Louise, because it seems like that is where our Disney interest stemmed from. So she wrote back to us and said, thanks for your interest in Carolyn's and my Harlequin novel. As you know, it was written many years ago. Here's what I remember. Disney World was our idea and not inspired by an editor or any approach from Disney. I did personally visit Epcot with my husband to research. I had visited earlier when my kids were quite small. During this later visit, I found that Epcot had changed and evolved, so I was glad to have given myself a second experience. Yeah, we were when we reached this out, we were just kind of curious, like, did Disney approach Harlequin about this? Was this somebody's excuse to fund a trip to Disney for research? So thank you to Louise for bringing that to light. I'm kind of like, did Disney even know about this?
Right, like, this is where I'm curious, and this is why I was trying so hard. Like, I have really nothing to add in my background about the book itself, because I really couldn't find anything other than it's published by Harlequin, and then it's all the history of Harlequin. I guess because they publish so many books per year, like, there's just not a lot of information about any one individual book. But given the cover has so many iconic Disney attractions on it, I was like, Disney has to sign off on this on something.
Yeah.
At least in my head, I
like,
would think
legally,
so.
I don't know, like, Disney has a big legal department, but who knows? Like, yeah, the images, everything is named by name. Like, it's Epcot Center at that point, and Magic Kingdom and Pirates of the Caribbean. I believe all of those are
There's like a
trademarked.
contract hidden somewhere in like the Disney archive of just like this 2-page contract of, can we put the castle on a book that'll be sold to women in supermarkets?
I just feel like Disney would not do that today. So
no,
still some unanswered questions there, but grateful to the authors for providing the information.
That being said, though, folks, none of the spicy scenes happen in Disney World.
Excellent point. Yes.
So maybe that's what was okay. Like, none of that happens actually like in Disney, as like people like to like clarify. Ooh, how many people do you think hook up on these rides? No, that's not happening here.
I feel like we should back up and give a little overall plot synopsis. We didn't do that because the back of the book doesn't do that either. It's kind of just a passage from the book. But essentially we have two characters, a recently widowed Ms. Barbara Emerson and private investigator Daniel McGuinn, and they connect with each other in Baltimore because Barbara's stepdaughter from her recently deceased husband has run away. She's 16. She's, dealing with her father's recent death, struggling to adapt, and she runs away to Orlando. So Barbara and this detective make their way to Orlando to find her, and they have the hots for each other. So just we'll get more into it, but that's kind of all you need to know here. But like any good romance novel, we have plenty of tropes, a little bit of an age gap, close proximity to each other. We did not get just one bed. They did have two hotel rooms. I was like ready. I was like, oh no, are they gonna have just one bed?
No, as soon as he got there and he's like, there's two rooms, I was like, here, there's gonna be a booking mix.
Some kind of mess up. We did not get that, but we did get a third act miscommunication type breakup, the feelings that he fell first. So as a more seasoned romance reader, what do you think worked best in this book, Emily?
So I think the close proximity, we did like a March Madness bracket, the two of us, on with our friend Leanne, about our favorite tropes, and close proximity got pretty close for all three of us. I think it won for
How
me.
would you define close proximity for anyone who may not be familiar?
Close proximity to me is you're forced to be in the same space consistently.
A tiny
together.
plane where your leg brushes up as you fly to Florida.
Close proximity could be lots of things. It could be a tiny space, literally, or in some cases, like, you are forced to work on the same project group together. So you just have to spend a lot of time. For this, I would say close proximity is because she enlisted his services to help find her daughter. So she has to go to a private investigator because she jumps state lines. So police aren't very helpful at this point. So the fact that he's working this case, like, they have to be in contact with each other about developments and whatnot. And then he uses that as his excuse to keep talking to her when he probably doesn't have to. But like, to me, that was enough of a close proximity trope to work, that they just have to end up being in the same place. They do end up in the tiny plane at some point when they're going down to Florida. He's also a pilot because, of course, he is. So they do end up in some tight quarters where, they have to sit next to each other and elbows brush and knees hit each other under the table and whatnot. So some close proximity. That one always works well for me, because I do like the internal monologues we get from characters about, like, their internal freakouts of, like, was that weird? Do they know? Am I coming off okay? Like, I like that banter, that internal banter always works for me. So that one was good for me. There is an age gap, which I didn't really notice the age gap until he said his age at the very end of the book.
It was like 10 years.
Yeah, she's like 28 and he's 37.
I don't think they ever explicitly said what she was. Like, he approximates what her age is, but I just took that in my mind that that's how old she was.
Yeah, so she's like late 20s,
like,
early
he notes
30s,
that she's
maybe.
Definitely too young to be this 16-year-old's mom.
Yeah, if anything, that's the only thing age-wise that still kind of got me, was not so much their age difference, but I was like, ooh, like, thinking of me as someone who teaches high schoolers, if one of those was actually my children, I was like, oh, that's kind of tough to wrap my head around. But it does happen. Hey, there's no wrong way to make a family.
Was there anything you could have done without?
Okay. This is where I go on my tangent. My least favorite trope of all time is third act breakup. I hate them. And they are a staple of romance. Look at any rom-com, any romance book, movie, because you need, like, once they get together, like, there has to be some more conflict, because it's too good to be true to just, like, or you're at the end already. Like, how are you going to elongate this? There needs to be more conflict. So I get it. But the problem I usually have with third act breakups is they tend to happen in the last, like, 50 pages of a book, and then it's resolved so quickly. For me, if you want to have that extra tension, I'm for the breakup, per se. That could be someone moves, something doesn't happen, they find a reason to break up. In this case, it's Barbara finds a reason. She just feels unsure. He's very forward about how he feels about her, and she's like, whoa, I just got my stepdaughter back. So, like, the reason for the, quote, third act breakup actually didn't bother me because I felt that it was like a justifiable circumstance. So like I can handle how those happen if it's like not, there's some kind of miscommunication, but it's kind of justifiable. She's like, I'm trying to just reestablish and make sure my daughter's okay before we launch into whatever we are. But then it's resolved in like 30 pages. And that just like, and it's not necessarily this book's fault. I just keep finding this rom-com after rom-com. For me, if you're going to have a third act breakup, make me work through it for like at least 75 pages, not less than 30 to a resolve. What about you? Any tropes that you found really good or ones that you didn't like?
Yeah, I think I'm with you with just the pacing at the end there. I appreciated how quick I was able to move through the book, but I was like, oh, okay. Now we're getting married. Like, that felt very abrupt, but I don't know, it's kind of funny when his parents are like, well, he's not getting any younger. When are you going to marry? And I'm like, okay, well, they've been dating for what now? Like,
2 months?
2 months at this point.
When you know. I'm like, okay.
All right, well, sounds good. So I guess that would just be my criticism. But overall, I feel like we read romance novels for their predictability and to escape in the comfort of that. So I felt satisfied in that regard.
So let's talk about our two main characters. We have private investigator Daniel McGowan and the recent widow, Mrs. Barbara Emerson. What did you think of our two characters?
I thought it was interesting how much time was spent on physical descriptions.
Yes.
I haven't read any others. This is probably a trope of those types of novels, but it's like they really just honed in on their outfits. Like, her form-fitting cashmere sweater hugged her body tightly. And I was like, oh, okay. I feel like that's less prevalent in more modern romance novels that I read. Like, so much focus on physical descriptions repeatedly. Like, he's a redhead, and we learned that every
so is she.
Other page. Well, no, she's more like a strawberry blonde, but they really like to hone in on his fiery red hair.
So, speaking of the appearances, one of my big qualms is that they don't match the cover of the book. So not only that we don't spend a ton of time,
he has red hair.
But like,
do you mean that she's more blonde?
And she's supposed to have like curly hair. Like,
okay, that's fair.
Like
she has
really
more of a
curly, because he talks all the time about like she's trying to tame her curls into like an updo or like a bun, and like he can tell when she's frazzled because it's almost like I pictured like Merida where like the curl keeps popping out because she just can't tame her hair. And I look at this, I'm like, they're both too well kept. Like the hair. So it was mostly the hair that her hair's not curly enough. His hair is not red enough for to be fiery red, and it's basically chocolate brown. I'm like, come on.
There's hints of red in it, but yeah, I get what you mean.
But like, he's supposed to be this almost hardcore Irish Baltimore former cop, and I'm like, I'm not seeing that on the cover. So
he was dressed for leisure in Orlando. He's gotta wear his nice polo. How else is he gonna get to California Grill?
So I like these characters. I really liked, we knew a lot about, like I said earlier, what I liked is we did get to know both of them really well. Like, we have a whole backstory of why he's no longer a cop. He ended up in a shootout for armed robberies, and he found like he just can't handle, he did not do well with that kind of violence. And then he had a falling out with his father because the whole backstory of how his whole family is all cops. They're all in law enforcement. And his father basically like segregates him from the family, only remarks on him in mocking passing because he's no longer a cop. So like we get quite a bit of backstory. We know how Barbara became a widow. That was a plot twist. She was the one driving the car.
Oh, I saw that coming.
I didn't see that one. Like,
see, I've read too many mysteries. I was like, no, like that's why she feels so
guilty.
You've
got the mystery part down.
Yeah, and why? Well, and I will. Yeah, it's a good point that this did kind of have some mystery elements to it. Like, where? I mean, obviously, I knew Jackie was at Walt Disney World, but where was Jackie? And the tension building there.
Like, we got a lot about her job. She works at a local, like a community college,
Baltimore City College, which I don't think is around anymore.
Yeah, they just called it City College.
But shout out to private investigator Daniel McGuinn for being a criminology degree holder from University of Maryland.
UMD.
They are known for their criminology program. So, good for him.
I know a lot of criminology majors. One of my former sorority sisters, or not former sorority sister, but one of my sorority
Sisterhood
sisters.
is forever, Emily.
It is. She now works for the FBI, and she was a criminology major. So yeah, great stuff. I loved all the Maryland references. I'm not a Baltimore native like you, where like I would pick up on street names and stuff, but the Maryland things,
yes,
like in general, I was very happy about. But yeah, like we got a ton of backstory. From
I cared about them. I think that's the highest
we knew about
compliment.
We knew all about her student Kevin. Like, yes, I'm rooting for Kevin to get a job.
I hope Kevin succeeds in interior design.
So for as short as this book is, I do feel like we really get to know our characters.
Yeah, strong character development for sure. But
yeah, they are smitten with each other from page 3. As soon as she walks into his office to ask for help, we go back and forth between both of their subconscious, where we know they both find each other incredibly attractive. And of course he takes the case without asking her to pay for it and all these other little things. So right away they're in for it. They're gunning for this relationship. All right, let's take a break on the love and let's talk about the 1980s in Walt Disney World.
Yeah, so the book itself does not take place in Walt Disney World very long. As you said, it's only about 3 chapters of the entire book, but it's about third. So you and I were not able to visit Disney parks in the 1980s, but we are Disney history nerds, and certainly some things are still around today. So what did you pick up on?
Okay. Couple things. One, we got to give it to private detective Daniel McEwen. He knows Disney World. So positive traits for this man.
Bought her a park hopper ticket. That's a good man right there.
He knew. He's like, do you want to take the ferry or the monorail? And he's like, the ferry's better. And I was like, oh, a man after my own heart.
Yes.
I do love the monorail, but to enter Magic Kingdom, I'm pro ferry. But yeah, like he knew all the parks. We go to Epcot and he's like, oh yeah, we're going to go around the country. Do you want to take the double-decker bus or this or this? And I was just like, he knows.
Let's go to San Angel Inn. Those are the 3 words just for me.
Yeah, he went exactly. Like, he's like, oh, are you hungry? I know a little place in Mexico. Okay. For me, I think the biggest thing that made my little Disney heart go was the double-decker bus in Epcot, because I remember that so much as a kid, because those were around through the 90s, and I remember all the characters would ride around. There was like a character bus too, and they would just get off and like they're traveling the country with you, and I really enjoyed that. So the transportation, we're all about the transportation on this. Like half of it is just them on transportation vehicles. So that was really exciting to me. They spent some time in Adventureland, so talking about different restaurants. Again, some very specific like shops in Fantasyland. So like good job with that.
Yeah, I recognized King Stephen's Banquet Hall, which is the former name of Cinderella Royal Table. And they're like, wait a second, this is Cinderella Castle. Why do we have a restaurant named after the king from Sleeping Beauty? But I was like, it was still accurate in 1986. Dan's out here using the handicap pass. He said when Barbara rejoined Dan in front of Spaceship Earth, he gave her a handicap pass. This will get you close enough to get inside without having to wait for an hour, he explained. I was like, wait, this is a whole thing now with people, using these accommodations, and they are well-deserved accommodations, but maybe some people having loopholes through the system. I was like, this was a conversation in 1986.
How did you feel about they go to Tomorrowland? Yeah, I said this is page 117. Quote: yes, I've been to the Space Bar, the Skyway Station Shop, the Spaceport. I've been up on this thing. He points to the Wedway People Mover. Yes. And like, I was just like, whoa! They just packed Courtney all into one sentence.
A lot of them were like these little drive-by things, but it was the same for Baltimore. So I don't know. I just get tickled when I read little references to things I know. So for me, maybe it wasn't as much Disney as I expected, but I was glad for what I did. I loved the description of Spaceship Earth. An hour later, they walked through one of Epcot's gates and once more approached Spaceship Earth. In the morning light, with the sun glinting off its silvery facets, the monster globe looked like an enormous golf ball perched on a giant tee. And I was like, I love it! It's a golf ball!
So, I will say, for the little bit of time we do spend in Walt Disney World, it's very specific. So I give both Carolyn and Louise mad props here for, like, we don't spend a ton of time here, but it is specific. It is to 1986. We did post maps on our Instagram page. We encourage you. They're easy to find online. Like, go check it out as you're reading this. Like, follow along and see if you can find Tinkerbell's Toy Shop and Mickey's Mart and all these different places that they name. Were there any things that were irksome, given our Disney expertise and background, that you were like...
This is, I know what your next question is, too. Do you want to phrase it? Because these two go together for me.
Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so, and then we'll come back to mine. The main attraction we do spend significant time on is Pirates of the Caribbean. There's a whole chase sequence in Pirates of the Caribbean.
And that is what I found irksome. As a former attractions cast member who knows that safety begins with me and is the top priority at Disney, I was like, what? Okay, so they spot Jackie working in the park. She's at the Plaza del Sol Caribe, the gift shop for Pirates of the Caribbean. She runs into the attraction. They follow her through the queue, but they were kind enough to note that it was like towards the end of the night and the queue wasn't very crowded, which for early 1990s Disney, I can confirm, was often true. No fast pass back then. So they're running through the queue. Jackie, the daughter, gets on a boat. Dan and Barbara get on a boat like 3 behind her and are sent off onto the ride, but then Dan's climbing over boats. I feel like at one point Jackie like jumps into the scenery, and do not try this at Disney World, folks, because there are sensors that will sink guests out of vehicle. I was just
it just never happened.
No, but I did like that they noted, well, there's an area right near the unload where the boats usually bunch up, and I was like, well, that's
they
fair.
Have boats like next to the fort or anything. Where there's a lot of space.
It was fun to see the descriptions of Pirates of the Caribbean. That remains largely untouched, but I was like, this is ridiculous, but I kind of loved it. Like, it was camp to me.
Yeah, it was a good place, I think, to have a chase. Like, if you're gonna have one and you want it to be on an attraction, I was trying to think of like what would be a better one, but for what she's trying to do, where like he's hopping vehicles, like you couldn't do that on Haunted Mansion.
Oh gosh, no.
You couldn't do that on like What Away People Mover, really. So I guess that worked. But yeah, that one irked me a lot. I was like, there's no way that would happen. And then the cast members who stopped them, he's just like, look, I'm a private investigator, like holds his FBI-ish type badge. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Like, that would never happen. And then the other things that kind of irked me a little bit was first when they're going around Epcot and she's like, I went to this country, then this country, they're not in order. And I was like, you did not run through China and then come back to it. So that irked me a little, but like that's on a low scale. Another one that kind of got me was just the fact that within 2 months, Jackie got a job under a false name.
I was gonna say, not only got a job, but just took some other girl's job because the girl wanted to go home to whatever state she's from. She's like, oh, you look like me. Yeah, you can be Becky.
Like,
I literally
no one caught that. Like, yeah, you look like each other. Maybe management far up the chain wouldn't notice, but like your coworkers would. And regardless, that's still identity theft. Like, she used another person's
social security number, because that was the whole thing.
Number.
They go there first, and Dan's like, I'm gonna talk to personnel, because they're like, yeah, no, nobody with that social security number is working here. Nobody named Jackie. And they're like, huh, okay. I was like, wait, how does she have a job? And identity theft.
Maybe I read this wrong because I was reading pretty quickly. They mentioned, like, so the first time they see her is when they go to Epcot. So they go through Magic Kingdom first, can't find her. So then they monorail over to Epcot because, yay, park hopper ticket. And then they're, like, about to give up, and they see her on a double-decker bus just, like, riding by, and she's wearing a uniform. And I was like, one, cast members would not be in uniform just taking a ride on the bus. 2, I think they said it was like a plaid uniform, like a guest relations uniform.
They
And I was
definitely
like, you do
described
not.
her costume.
I was like, you do not get a job in guest relations within a month working there.
Well, but then my other point was she was then working at Pirates of the Caribbean. I was like, no, you are status to your, like, I worked
Yeah,
Space
like
Mountain. I couldn't go show up and work Big Thunder the next day.
Yeah, so just because someone had mentioned, yeah, she gives tours, I was like, yes, you might get a job. I retract my former statement. You can get a job in guest relations, but you are not getting a job as a tour guide within 1 month of working at Walt Disney
you
World.
work your way up to something like that.
So that one, I was like, there's no way she's a VIP tour guide
stole that girl's
within a month.
identity. Not only that, she was at the airport ready to go home because Barbara wired her money and met some other girl going home, and the girl was like, you can have my job at Walt Disney World. Okay, I guess I'll stay.
Crazy. I mean, on this grand scheme of things, for those are the things that were nitpicky to us, mostly because since we are and were cast members, like, we understand, like, you can't just do that. Or anyone who has a job should know you can't just do that. But they had to make it work for this plot, that she got a job in Walt Disney World and trying to find her, not knowing what kind of clothes she has now, costuming for working, your hair could look different, etc. So it worked for what they needed, and the fact that they can't catch up with her. But also, if she worked there, like, don't ride into Pirates of the Caribbean or run into that. Go backstage. There's other ways out. Why did you think, let me go on an attraction?
Yeah, I expected inaccuracies going into it, so I just had fun at the journey. But there were times as a former cast member in attractions where I was like, no.
But I did so for my cast member experience, she did meet some characters. She does go talk to Minnie and Mickey at some point, or like she kind of gets caught up in the moment when like the parade is going by, and like she's like, for a second I almost forgot that there's all these bad things. I was like, yes, because that's Disney magic. So overall, how would you rate, like, even though it's only 1/3 of the book, like the Disney, on like a scale of 1 to 10, how would you give this, like, Disney?
Like, what's a 10?
Like, incredibly accurate, pure Disney magic.
Like,
I'd probably
a
give this
6?
Like I was thinking like a 6.
Yeah.
We have specifics.
Look, I'm just shocked this book was even able to be published, so I was just happy to be along for the ride. Or the attraction, so to speak.
It was fun to ride this attraction. But yeah, so this was a lot of fun. So yeah, I would agree, like a 6. We get to the parks. We go to both parks.
I would have liked more parks, but I understand why it developed the way that it did.
And I do think the big kudos to me is that our private detective is very much a Disney fan.
Out here,
he is a Disney adult,
getting
and it made me
handicap
so happy.
line passes. Park
he knows
hopping.
the restaurants without a map.
Good for him. I also, this is just very 80s, was like, oh, they didn't have cell phones. They're like, okay, meet at Spaceship Earth at 5:30 p.m. I'll take Future World. You take World Showcase. I was like, oh.
That's true. I didn't even think about that
The
aspect.
80s, man. A simpler time.
You could even say that was all the way back to like the early 2000s. Not everyone having a cell phone. Maybe mom and dad, but not every kid. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, so let's talk about this ending. Was it a happily ever after? Was it the ending you were hoping for?
I felt often with romance, you know the ending that you're heading for. Like, yeah, they're going to end up together. And I was happy to see Jackie, the stepdaughter, adapt to, like, take to Dan quickly. And, you know, he kind of is now going to fill in the role of her recently passed father. So it felt a little abrupt, but I was okay with it.
This is where, to me, it really stood out reading this as someone in 2023 versus maybe 1986, where I felt like a lot of her feelings weren't being taken into account. Like, he was very like, I finally found so a big part of his character is like he hasn't found the person, he was engaged, didn't work out because it was a former partner on the police force. He leaves police force, friction. But then he's like, I finally found my person. And when you find them, like, you should just want to be together. And I'm all for that, especially within a romance novel. Like, you have to buy into that full force. But then when she was like giving some pretty reasonable apprehensions, like, I just got my daughter back. She ran away from home for 3 months. She's clearly not doing well with her father's passing within the last year. I need to take care of this. And she says, like, I like spending time with you. I like doing this. But he's like right away, like, let's get married.
She just says, she's not like, oh, I don't want to be with you. She just wants to take things slow, which I feel is reasonable.
Yeah, given the trauma of their background. Now, that's not to say for every person, your relationship timeline is unique to you, and what works for you is amazing. But from what she was telling me as a reader, that she needed a little bit more time and space, I just felt like he was starting to push those buttons that I was like, she is an independent woman with a job and a career that she's good at. Yeah, I think that mostly was what it came to. Was that's the whole point of these. Now, like, once we lost the plot of him helping her find her daughter,
they found the daughter.
How are you gonna wrap this up quickly?
You got like what 40, 50 more pages to.
Yeah, I just found that in that wrap up though, that's where I got irksome. Like, we had a third act breakup for no reason. Like, to me, it could have ended when they found Jackie and she came home and they had a nice date and continued to see each other. Like, it didn't need to go to marriage for me to have a good ending. But like that push for like, we're getting married next month.
I'd be curious how many other Harlequins end in marriage. Is that reflective of the time? Is that kind of just like, that's where we're going with it? I feel like often maybe just the Emily Henrys and things I've read they end in a proposal.
Or just in a good place altogether. But yeah, so that's a good point. Like, what did Happily Ever After look like to us in 2023 versus 1986, or what readers were expecting when they're reading romance novels. So yeah, the ending to me, I think is what would keep this novel at like a 3 stars for me, just because of that abruptness and
look, 3 stars on Goodreads is I liked it, and
yeah, I did like it. Overall, I had a great time reading it. The Disney stuff was a plus for you, especially the Baltimore stuff. Us being Marylanders was a plus. Yay, UMD more UMD alumni. I'll take fictional alumni too. So overall, I enjoyed this. It was a fun read, and I encourage people to find this book. Go to internetarchive.org and read it. It's a fun 3-hour read, maybe on that flight down to Walt Disney World.
There you go.
This is the perfect book to take you to the most magical place on earth.
Well, how would you write a Walt Disney World romance if you were to take this direction?
So this is tough. Because I don't know if like my version of Walt Disney World romance would be like the Harlequin romance of like, let me take you to like top of the world grill and like something fancy. Like, to me, I'm much more on the cheesy end, probably, especially if it comes to Walt Disney World. So my romance would probably be some sort of meet cute in the park, like attractions. And for our level of Disney adult historian geeky nerdiness, like someone else who like gets a reference or something. We're standing in line, bickering back and forth, maybe with you. I'm in line with you. We're going to pretend my partner and I have not met yet. I'm in line with you. We're bickering about something, debating some historic topic, and someone behind us just peeks in and also contributes to the conversation. We're both blown away that he knows this random fact of Disney, and we're in line for something like Living with the Land. And the fact that he's like, I love this ride too. Like something like that, where like just the pure Disney geeky hardiness of me would just be so happy.
Your heart is aflutter at the mention of the hydroponics.
Right. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of, I'll give it away in my other resource, what I think of as like the Disney park romance in my head. But what about you? Like, what things would need to be included for a Walt Disney World romance?
A fun setting would be amid the Disney College program, because that
so
is
many
ripe with opportunity and drama.
One of my roommates, she met her husband and they now have 2 children. They met on the Disney College program.
I love that. That's very sweet. Yeah, I feel like you could have like a super Disney fan who's eager to do the Disney college program. I think though she falls in love with someone who is full-time at Disney, so not a fellow college program. Is that what happened to your roommate? Sorry, I see Emily gesturing on the
That's what happened to
camera. Oh, sweet. So then she has to decide, does she go home? Does she stay?
The conflict.
Yeah, that's going to be your third act conflict.
Does she get off the plane? She got off the plane.
The flanges were missing. That would be, I think that would be a cute setting for it. And now, we're in 2023. We got 4 Disney parks. Only Epcot and Magic Kingdom were open at the time of this publication. So we got Disney's Hollywood Studios and Disney's Animal Kingdom to explore as well.
Right. We could have like a whole Star Wars meet cute romance going on in Galaxy's Edge. So I don't know. I think we could have a lot of fun. There's, I think, a calling out there. If this book gets so much traction on social media whenever someone gets a copy, and there are Disney or theme park type romances out there, Happily Ever Island that we read. But I think there's a market for it.
I think so.
Maybe we have to find some more people out there.
We have to wait for someone to write that or those. But in the meantime, we, of course, have our additional resources. So Louise was kind enough to share what else she has worked on. So I wanted to plug her 9-book historical mystery series, Oliver Redcastle Gilded Age Mysteries, which is available on Amazon. I have not personally read them, but this sounds like the blend of your love of historic fiction and my love of mysteries. So on my radar for personal reading. We will include both authors' Amazon pages linked in the show notes if you want to see what else they've contributed to the literary realm.
So a resource I want to share is the 21st episode of season 3 of Boy Meets World, titled The Happiest Show on Earth, which first aired on May 10th, 1996. So only a decade after our book is published here. And is also available on Disney Plus. To me, this is what I thought of when I thought of thinking about, what would be your ideal Walt Disney World like romance story. I thought of Cory and Topanga, where he's running across the park trying to find her and profess his love to her. And it's kind of similar where like we just happen to be in Walt Disney World. Like that just happens to be the setting. So you get to see all these cool park things and he's going on attractions trying to catch up with her. So it's almost like our chase scene here, except it's a runaway love instead of a runaway stepdaughter. So this is what I thought of. And in this episode, Cory and Topanga recently broke up. She wins a trip to Walt Disney World for an essay contest. And when Cory learns that the school heartthrob is also going on this trip, he needs to run all over Walt Disney World to look for Topanga and make up with her before she can fall in love with someone else. So if you enjoy this novel or you need something visual before you can get to the book, definitely check out that episode of Boy Meets World.
That's a great comparison and a great pick. And I feel like maybe we're kind of staying in the same realm for our April selection with theme park fiction. You can join us in late April for our next selection, You Must Be This Tall, a novel by N.K. Reinert. We will interview former Disney cast member and author Natalie about her inspiration for the novel, stemming from her experiences as a theme park cast member, her love of vintage Disneyland, and copycat parks, especially Freedomland USA. So here's the book's description. Quote, "Welcome to America the Beautiful theme park. America the Beautiful. Families come here to vacation. College students come here to get work credit and escape exams for a semester. Middle-aged adults come here to soak up the nostalgia of their childhood trips. Most people go home. Some people stay. They all have reasons for being here. Tabby, because America the Beautiful's themed world offers the perfection her evangelical upbringing told her wasn't possible in this sinful world. Atonia, because it's the first place where her hungry childhood feels like ancient history. Nick, because creating his own content could make him an internet star. Nate, because it's the only culture where he's ever felt he belonged. And Martin, because he's holding on to the memories of what he had here once. With a shared mythology, their only link, the employees and fans of America the Beautiful find their lives tangle in unexpected ways, proving that a theme park isn't just for kids and it can be a very adult place." End quote. So definitely some clear Disney parallels there as I read that description. So we're very excited.
It has your college program.
It does. I don't know if it's a love story there. We haven't read it yet, but we're excited to next
Maybe we
month.
predicted our meet cute and love stories all in one shot. I can't wait to read this.
We will have to see it play out. And if you want to join us in reading along, Natalie was kind enough to offer an exclusive discount to listeners of Book of the Mouse Club. You can go to the link in our show notes and use the promo code Book of the Mouse to get 30% off either an ebook or a paperback now through April 30th. So plenty of time to grab that and read. So thank you, Natalie, for providing that through our listeners. Again, that link to purchase and the code itself will be in our show notes. In the meantime, you can keep up with Book of the Mouse Club on Twitter and Instagram at Book of the Mouse. Email us with comments or ideas to bookofthemouseclub@gmail.com. Please be sure to leave us a review on iTunes so others may find our podcast and read and listen along with us. You can keep up with me, Courtney, on Instagram at GreatGutsby and Twitter at Courtney_Guth.
And you can keep up with me, Emily, on Instagram and Twitter at the same handle at Emily_McD. And Courtney, it's your turn to close us out.
Yeah, I really had to think deep about where I wanted to go with this one. But as we shared before, this book takes place in 1986. So I looked at like a theme park timeline. And notably, that is when Walter Cronkite took over as the narrator of Spaceship Earth. So I thought it would be fitting to close this episode with the way that attraction closes, given its presence in the book. So Walter Cronkite says, quote, "Ours is a time of unprecedented choice and opportunity, so let us explore and question and understand. Let us learn from our past and meet the challenges of the future. Let us go forth and fulfill our destiny on Spaceship Earth." End quote.
I like that pick. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. I had to think very hard about it, but I came through. So thank you so much, listeners, for joining us on this journey here on our Spaceship Earth. And we can't wait to join you again next month with Natalie's You Must Be This Tall. Book of the Mouse Club has no affiliation with the Walt Disney Company. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and participants are theirs and theirs alone. They do not represent the organizations or companies they happen to work for.